Stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody, please make sure their microphones are on. Today is Monday, June 7th. I think mine's dead. Convenient. Today is Monday, June 7th, 2021. The time being 5 p.m. The meeting of the Greensburg Board of Works is called to order at this time. Please silence electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I did want to take a moment and say on Tuesday, June 1st, Brenda Dwinger, clerk treasurer for the city of Greensburg, resigned her post. Brenda has continued to be a pillar in our community and has served Greensburg and Decatur County in many capacities over her professional career. She has chosen to spend more time with her family and focus on health, and I'm honored to have had the opportunity to serve with her, and I wish her all of the best as she continues to do so. And with that, interim clerk treasurer Betsy Wiley will be serving in that role until that role is filled. Betsy, could you please call the roll?
Rodney King.
Present.
Glenn Tabby.
Here.
Karen Russ. Here. Jamie Kane.
Jamie did notify me that he would be out of town due to work conflict tonight, so I was expecting that as well. You all have a copy of the minutes from May 3rd, 2021. Any additions, edits, or corrections to those?
Move approval. Second.
Motion's been made by Glenn, seconded by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we will move directly into old business. This was, we have a special meeting, May 27th, 2021. Any edits, additions, or corrections to that? If not, we'll take a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made by Dee, seconded by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain.
I would move to approve them. All of those against, we already did that, abstentions, okay, perfect, those stand approved. Old business, Municipal Advisor Agreement. This was discussed at our last meeting for Reedy Financial to engage with us in a little bit more detail to assist with reviewing the bonds that are associated with the with the tax levy for the police department and how our strategy is to use those going forward. Were there any further questions about that? If not, we take a motion to approve that as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made by Glenn, seconded by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Under new business, we will jump to Ron May, city engineer. We have a couple bids that need to be opened, and then in order to help expedite review of that, we will do those first. So first of all, we have the bid openings for the Pirate Park entrance project.
The Pirate Park entrance project consists of constructing a drop-off area at the north end of the new Pirate Park, along with a short piece of sidewalk that goes up into the park, and sidewalk around the asphalt entrance, and then finally a piece of sidewalk that goes over to the high school parking lot. So that is the project.
The first bid that I'm opening is Milestone Contractors. appears to be a complete bid. The total bid amount is $118,900. 118,900. The next bid I am opening, just trying to get in order. Let's see if we'll,
No.
There is not a bid, but we'll shoot you.
okay. Alright, so the next one I'm gonna open is Johanningman. Johanningman Excavating. This appears to be a complete bid. The amount of this bid is $84,600. 84600. The next bid I'm opening is Dave O'Mara Contractors. This appears to be a complete bid. The bid amount is $123,759. 123,759. The next bid that I am opening is Shooty Excavating. This appears to be a complete bid. The bid amount is $87,890. 87890.
What was that company again, please?
Shooty Excavating. CHUTT.
And where are they from?
They are located at 2746 East County Road, 575 South, Greensburg, Indiana.
Okay, thank you.
The last one I'm opening is Paul H. Rowe Company Incorporated. By the way, whoever left the letter opener here out, it is much appreciated. Okay. This appears to be a complete bid as well. The total amount of this bid is $95,725. 95725. That is all of the bids that I have.
For the bids for the Pirate Park entrance, we ask that you take this under advisement while Ron and Mark review them, and then at the end of the meeting, we can award one should they see fit. Fair? We didn't do anything with that.
No.
Go with that, okay.
Just tabling to the end.
And then 2021-1 CCMG paving project.
There's this is the Community Crossings Matching Grant project, correct?
Yes, sir.
I am opening the bid of Pavement Solutions Incorporated. This appears to be a complete bid. The total bid is $145,176.76. 145,176, period, 76. That's the only one I got.
Same thing, I'm taking that under advisement, and Mark will go review those, and then we will come back. Any questions for them before then?
My only question was, you sent it out to these three companies? Was that you?
We published a legal ad in the paper, and those three requested the contract documents.
I'm surprised you didn't get the other bid documents.
I'm sorry?
I'm surprised that one of the other didn't submit a bid.
It is highly specialized work, and I actually suspect that the two that didn't bid
Realized they could.
didn't realize what the work was until they saw the
Gotcha.
contract documents.
Anything else? If not, we will move on. Joyce Holtkamp is here this evening to discuss the Decatur County Fair and the parade route.
Hi.
Hello. So Joyce and I are here this evening to discuss really the Decatur County Fair route, what that will entail for the upcoming year. What I have presented in front of you is what happened in 2018. This past year, and the year prior in 2019, we were able to line up in the grass lot and just use Ireland Street as a runway instead of marking off all these individual streets, which is what we are proposing to you. This is kind of a backup plan. Weather permitting, if we aren't able to use the black grass lot due to mudding in and that sort of thing, we will need access to those streets. So just asking for your permission to block those routes if needed. If not, we will only need support at Ireland and Park Road.
So is this sort of your worst case scenario, like weather doesn't cooperate? you
This is
need to
worst
do
case
this?
scenario.
Okay.
Yes.
Where's the grass area that you're talking about?
Right in front of the building here
Okay.
is what we used, and then just along Ireland Road for any excess. We haven't honestly got very many quotes through, so I anticipate that it will be higher this year because we didn't have a parade last year. So we will most likely need all of Ireland Street.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
So this is so much similar, I mean, it's the same, our, at least everybody else are familiar, it's not a question of concern.
Maybe
I just need to know the date and time.
Yes, it will be July 11th at 5 o'clock is the parade time.
5 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
My birthday.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So will the sheriff's department have access to your building?
Yes, the last bullet point there says they will have, they'll remain open access via Lee Street.
Okay, just want to double check.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we take a motion to approve the road closures from starting at 3 p.m. on July 11th and continuing through 5 p.m. for the fair.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Rodney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dee. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Up next, we have Andi McKee, Kappa, 4th of July fair, or 4th of July parade road closures.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we are just asking approval for the same rail we've had for, so it'll be 101 years since we didn't use it last year's. The lineup will be along Franklin Street between Walnut and Porter's Funeral Home, and along with the side streets on either side of Walnut, Hendricks, and Central. And then it heads south towards the square, west on Washington, and then wraps back around on Broadway and ends at Gillen, Hall Funeral Home. And then Mark knows where the roadblocks need to go up, and I know, I emailed the map route ahead of time. So it will be on Sunday the 4th, and since it's a Sunday, the parade will start at 1, and lineups can start at 12:30. And we would love for you to be in the parade.
Who? Betsy?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Right ahead. But this year's Grand Marshal is, we are making it, like Healthcare Heroes, so we are inviting basically anyone in the healthcare field that wants to be a part of it. We're sending invitations at the hospital, the nursing homes, everyone. We want we want to celebrate everything that they did for our community, so.
Fantastic. So 4th at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
You have worked with the police chief in the past, to
Yeah.
help with that. Good on all
Yep.
that. Okay.
Might change it.
There you go.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Clint, seconded by Dee. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Hope
Have a
to
good
see you on
evening.
4th.
Okay, thank you. Up next, we have Aaron Stoermer, who is from Enterprise Fleet Management. He is joining us via Zoom this evening over here on the screen. And Aaron, can you hear us okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, got you
Okay.
loud and clear.
So part of what our conversation with Aaron's going to be is if you have a question for him, please speak clearly into the microphone as he's just on the mic up there. Aaron has been talking to me a little bit about this fleet management concept, so he's got some documents that were printed out for you and put on the table because they were a little late in the packet, so I want to be sure you had a copy of those. So he's going to walk through some of that and then answer any questions you have about the program. So Aaron, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome, thanks very much, Mayor Marsh. And thanks for the time, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all. So yeah, as the Mayor mentioned, I am Enterprise Fleet Management, so we're a much lesser known division than the rental car operation. But what I do directly takes the concept that has made the rental car operation profitable over the years, and we apply those same concepts to different cities, counties, private companies, and I focus on anyone headquartered in the state of Indiana. So I've actually kind of carved out a real focus, a real niche in the government space, because what I've found is that budgets are tight. Budgets are tight and vehicles are needed, and there's not, any time in sight where there's going to be an influx of cash that's going to allow folks to be able to replace vehicles as often as what is most cost effective. And so what we found is if we can take the concepts of a city or a county buying extremely well, and then use our resources at Enterprise to help determine what's the most cost effective we can forecast what it is, how long we're gonna keep a vehicle. And what I like to say is we're kind of buying with an end in mind. So we know when we're gonna get out of that vehicle because we know that's what's most cost effective. So that we don't get into a place where we start to, lose significant resale value where the vehicle is less attractive on the secondary market. And we don't get into a place where we're starting to spend an arm and a leg and needing to have $5, maintenance bills, approved at meetings like this. And so, I've been able to do that all over the state. We've got dozens of cities and counties that are working with us, and we've had, perfect retention with those accounts because we've been able to deliver on what it is we do. And so what I've worked with Mayor about, and I'm gonna share my screen here. What I've worked with Mayor Marsh on is pulling together a fleet list. So what I've done is looked at, the non-pursuit light duty fleet. Sorry, I'm a little trouble. So what essentially came into that fleet was about 26 vehicles, and again, I'm looking at 1 ton and below. Within that group of vehicles, 38% of the light duty fleet was over 10 years old, and the average age in years was 8.4 years. So looking at the current buying trends, it would take a little over 10 years for the city to replace that fleet, given the current buying trends, just looking at model year and understanding how often folks are buying vehicles. And so that's sort of the situation we have at hand. The objective we had was to figure out if our concept of tightening up that life cycle could create an opportunity that could be more advantageous for the city. And what we've done is by making a recommendation of a tighter life cycle, ultimately what we're doing is shortening the life cycle in my analysis from about 10 years, a 10-year hold to a 5-year maximum hold. What we've been able to do is show that we can replace those vehicles over time and get the city into a place where you're actually saving about $435,000 over 10 years, while also drastically lowering the age of the fleet. So I want to show you that analysis in a little bit better detail. So if we scroll down here, this is, if you have the packet, this is on page 3, titled Fleet Planning Analysis. This is the profile I just mentioned. Obviously, the city has a mix of different vehicles. You've got some sedans, some SUVs, the majority are pickup trucks. Again, 26 vehicles in the fleet. The average age is 8.4 years by looking at the model year. And the average annual mileage is just under 7,000 miles per year. Obviously, that's going to change, and that's going to adjust based on application. So the recommendation I made in that first year is if we replace the 10 oldest vehicles, these vehicles are all over 10 years old and all over 100,000 miles, that would be a perfect first step. And then over time, 8 years and 80, 6 years and 60, and then eventually over 5 years, get to a place where we've essentially replaced the entire fleet and turned the fleet completely over. So that sounds great. Obviously, everyone would like to operate newer vehicles. The department heads would obviously be happy with that. But we've got to make good financial sense of that. And so that's where I come to this fleet planning analysis. I'm going to try to make it as large as possible for you guys. So again, on the previous profile, I made the recommendation of replacing 10 vehicles per year. If you look historically within the city with this light-duty fleet, about 2.5 vehicles are being purchased on average annually. And so if you figure 2.5 vehicles, knowing the vehicle types are going to be $25,000, $30,000 vehicles, the average purchase budget is about $71,000. Obviously, in years you buy one, it's going to be a lot less. In years you buy 3 or 4, it's going to be more. But this appears to be the average over the past handful of years. We also factor maintenance. So again, the average age of this fleet is 8.4 years old. And so we use a lot of internal data and also industry data, to understand what does it cost to operate a fleet that is that age. And so we assigned about 21 cents per mile to that, knowing that brand new vehicles, even vehicles that you just bought at a dealer's lot, they're still going to cost on average 4 or 5 cents per mile, to maintain those. So you can understand how a vehicle that's 10, 15, 20 years old is going to be quite a bit more. And so this is any preventative maintenance, this is any non-preventative maintenance, and any, any shop rates or factor 12 miles per gallon. When we did this analysis, in fairness, the price of the pump was about $1 cheaper, so obviously the cost for fuel would only go up. But knowing what we do then, your all-in fleet budget on average for the city in this light-duty fleet is about $138,000. So playing out the profile that I had mentioned previously, we were recommending to replace 10 vehicles in that first year. So we put 10 vehicles into our open-ended equity lease, which is essentially financing that is set up to pay for the portion of the vehicle you're gonna use. There's not over mileage, there's not wear and tear charges that folks have become accustomed to from a dealership lease. This is much more flexible, and I'll explain that. But 10 vehicles would cost you $56,000. Let's say we sold the oldest 10 and only got $1,000 for each one of them. We can use that money to offset this cost, so it's really a net $46,000 is your cash outlay in year one. What's gonna happen is 10 of your 26 vehicles are now only getting oil changes. We've also replaced the oldest of the old fleet, so we're not throwing good money after bad vehicles, and we're not in a situation where we have a liability exposure to vehicles that could break down. And then we're also gonna pick up fuel economy, and that only becomes more important, like I said, when the price of pump goes up. So this gap now is obviously that much greater just because of the fact there are more dollars being spent when fuel is more expensive. So in the first year, we netted a savings of almost $40,000. And truthfully for me, the savings is icing on the cake. For me, if we can continue to operate a fleet of new, safe, efficient vehicles, then that's the objective we're looking for. So obviously, as we add vehicles to the program, 2 in the next year, 2 the year after that, and then 2 in the 5th year, your lease dollars are gonna go up. But what we found as we face in this program is that the quality of the vehicles that we're selling is also gonna be better. So in that last year, we're selling vehicles that are actually worth pretty good money, so we're able to offset these costs, and you can do the math here. We're never really going much further than the purchase budget that we initially had in place. And again, that purchase budget could only replace about 10% of the fleet. Well, now over 5 years, we've phased in the right vehicle for the application. We planned the right holding pattern, and again, we know they're efficient and safe vehicles. We're gonna continue to see a drop in maintenance. We're gonna see a drop in fuel. And then your net cash number is gonna be positive as well. The great thing is what happens after 5 years, and you start to actually get equity back from the leases that we put on the road in the first place. And I'll show you how that works here in a second. But essentially, over a 10-year period of time, we like to show this, you can turn the fleet twice over, and essentially save $435,000 for the city. I also like to show the sustainable savings, and what that looks like is looking at years 6 through 10 and averaging that savings. The reason that's important is that's not factoring in the owned equity whatsoever. This is the savings we can count on year in and year out just by turning vehicles over their most efficient life cycle. So that's the concept that the mayor and I have talked about. But what we've done since then is dug a little bit deeper. And I'll wrap this up quickly so we can get to questions. But basically, we assigned a conservative fair market value of the vehicles we felt made sense to look at being replaced. And you can see any vehicle that's over 5 years old, and generally speaking, they're higher in mileage. If we average out that mileage, or if we total up that mileage of the oldest vehicles in the fleet, we're gonna be able to sell that vehicle conservatively for $95,500. We take the vehicle on consignment, we maximize what we can get for that vehicle, our team handles that process. This is a conservative number, and typically we outperform that number. What we've also done is looked at different vehicle types. And so basically, I wanted to make sure we've replaced like for like based on that previous list that I had just shown you. And so on that list, there were 4 one-ton vehicles, so I priced that out here. There were 4 3/4-ton vehicles, there were 3 half-ton vehicles, and 1 full-size sedan. What I've done is I've shown what the monthly price will be for all these vehicles, and I've annualized it here. And then we multiply times the quantity to come up with the cost per vehicle. The bottom line is we could lease vehicles in the first year So this would not be something you need to put dollars in the budget for in 2022. The reason this is a long-term solution is because if you take a look, for instance, on this 3/4 ton, with how well you're able to purchase vehicles, in this case, buying a vehicle for a 3/4 ton, brand new, pickup truck for $32,000 roughly, we depreciate the vehicle $430 per month. So over 12 months, that vehicle's been depreciated on the books down to $26,600. Well, at the end of 12 years, or sorry, 12 months and 10,000 miles, that vehicle is worth $35,000 given current market conditions. So in this scenario, we can actually sell the vehicle after a year for more money than what was paid for it in the first place. The benefit is this cash flow tool we put in place, where the city only has to pay $1,500 to essentially use the vehicle as if you own it over that 12-month period. At the end of 12 months and 10,000 miles, we can sell the vehicle on your behalf. We can pay off this book value that you technically owe, but then the city gets $8,300 coming back to you in the form of equity, in this particular example, that can then pay, the vehicle in 2023, assuming the resale market, continues to stay strong, and we expect that. So varying scenarios based on vehicle type. I'm not going to come in and tell you to replace every single vehicle after a year. That would not be feasible operationally. But in certain scenarios, there could be a great opportunity to put a good vehicle on the road, take advantage of your buying power, our ability to sell vehicles for great money, and allow us to be a fleet partner with you to show you what's possible, and then ultimately the city can make the decisions that you'd like to make. So I think there's an opportunity to get this program started. Again, we've retained every client we've brought on in Indiana, and I think that's because of the fact that we put these numbers together in a conservative way, and then we deliver on that year after year. We have structure in place to continue to work with you to make sure that we're growing the partnership, growing the program. And this is not us as a dealership selling you a vehicle. This is us wanting to work with you and be really a fleet consultant to make sure the city is using the dollars as effectively as possible. So,
Okay.
Sorry, I probably got a little bit long-winded there. There's a lot to cover, but I'd love to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, questions?
The question I have is, do we have the appropriate number of vehicles that we should have for the size of our city? And do we have the appropriate vehicle in regards to compact trucks or half-ton or 3/4 ton? Or are we using vehicles that are too expensive for what we're using them for? Or do you do that assessment, or is that something that should be done at our level?
Well, I think it's a collaboration. I'll tell you, I'll give you a perfect example of that. If you look at your fleet list here, you have a couple of these Ford Rangers that are in service right now. I mean, these were bought 10 years ago, so it's not picking on anyone, obviously. And these could have been great vehicles to purchase back then. In today's market, what I know from doing this and consulting different cities is that these compact pickup trucks, they just don't pay for themselves with the slightly better fuel economy. The secondary market is much more attracted to a standard half-ton pickup truck. And so in this case, I would tell you, let's not replace with a Colorado or with a Ranger just because of the fact that that's what we've had. Let's go with the lower cost per mile, which is a half-ton truck, because if you factor all costs considered, it's a better solution, more cost-effective for the city. And then in addition to that, that's a question that a lot of folks ask when we get on board. And the best way I can answer it is that we will determine over time which vehicles are underutilized. And we will make recommendations to say, hey, this one back when we operated an old fleet, yeah, it was good to have a spare because we had vehicles go down. Now that we're phasing in these new vehicles, can we just get rid of that thing? Let's stop paying insurance on it and move on. Hendricks County is somebody I could refer you to in the west side of Indianapolis that we've been able to accomplish just that. One of the commissioner's core focuses was right sizing the fleet and right typing the fleet. And that's something that I can't answer every question day one, but I can tell you that we'll work with you over time, and we'll zone in on what makes sense for the city.
Well, that clarifies the questions I have, and I appreciate your expertise in this area.
Are we talking about only the utilities, or are we talking about utilities and street?
Those were the three departments that were
All three?
assessed through this, yes.
All three were included?
Yes.
Here, the departments of the folks that make sense are here on the left, just for your information.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions for Aaron?
Seems to make some sense, although it seems like we have a lot of our fleet is pretty old, and we have to make some drastic, purchases if we don't do something like this.
Sure. Well, I wanted this to be an educational opportunity for all of you. I know Aaron's been talking about some of the timelines with the productions and delivery issues that are coming. I know that the council has some questions as well, so because I sent you all the same email this morning with the packet. So I think, and Aaron's gonna join them at the 7 o'clock meeting as well, but.
You know, this is the first one we've seen. I also like to talk to heads of department.
Sure.
Regarding
This,
their thoughts.
this was because I couldn't explain all of that to you, so it's good. Anything else for him though? If not, we'll let him go and move on. Aaron, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, again, thanks for the time. One other thing I was just gonna highlight, I think it really speaks to it, is that one, we represent a proactive approach, and we just wanna work with you to show you what makes sense based on what we know about the auto industry. Some of that comes through what the mayor mentioned in terms of, we're in a very trying time when it comes to just securing vehicles right now. But the clients that are working with us aren't gonna miss out on getting vehicles, because we know when we need to get those things in, and we're gonna educate folks on how to get ahead of things, so we're not left out in the cold and having to buy vehicles at a significant markup at different dealerships and things like that. And then if you look at this fleet list, I talk about the proactive approach, buying with the end in mind. You can see these youngest vehicles, there's really good money to be had out of this fleet. But the problem is, if we don't get proactive and use some of these strategies, these four vehicles here start to look like these vehicles here. And now we've just lost this money sliding out the back door that we could have taken out to put into a good vehicle and reinvest back in to be more efficient. So I think this fleet list really kind of speaks to what the opportunity is. So thanks everyone for the time, and Mayor March has my contact information. If anybody would like to talk, I'm of course available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Aaron, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would ask that we take, well, it's more of a conversation than anything, so I think we're fine. We don't have to, just discussion. Up next, Police Chief Brendan Bridges, first item on the agenda, transfer of equipment. Good evening.
Good evening. First thing I have on the agenda is for transfer of equipment. Captain Blodgett retired from the police department on May 31st of this year. One of our ordinances is once an officer completes 20 years of service and retires, that he retires with his service weapon. So I'm asking that the board approves that Captain Blodgett received his 6-hour sidearm, which would be taken off the inventory after this meeting. So that's what my request is per policy, per ordinance.
Okay. Any further questions for the chief on that? If not, would accept a motion to give Mr. Blodgett his firearm after 20 years of service to the community.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Rodney, seconded by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Second is the request for transfer of equipment of a firearm. I will be retiring after 20 years of service, effective July 16th. So I'm asking that the board approve per the ordinance 34.06 that I retire with my 6th hour. And this would come off inventory on July 16th of 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made to give Chief Bridges his firearm July 16th by Rodney, seconded by Dee. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Last but not least, transfer a vehicle with my pending retirement and transferring to the schools. There was some question about a vehicle for me to drive. Spoke a little bit with the mayor and with Superintendent Tom Hunter. We do have a 2013 Ford Explorer that is scheduled to be traded in either late this year or early next year. So I come to the mayor asking if there would be a possibility that the city transfer that vehicle to the Greensburg Community Schools. If approved, the schools would pick up all financial responsibility on the vehicle, including fuel and maintenance, and license plate costs and insurance. We currently do have an MOU that's been in place for 18+ years with the schools that allows it to be the cost of the city, $1 per year, which is in with the licensing portion than the plates. The reasoning for that $1 per year is because it will still be considered as an emergency vehicle. I would still remain as a reserve officer with the police department, and I will still be involved with a lot of the community events and a lot of the programs I'm currently involved in. So that's where I'm coming to the board tonight to seek approval to transfer that vehicle to the schools.
Any questions for the chief?
I'm supportive. Just a question, did we do something similar when Bruce,
Yes.
I thought, I recalled that.
He's wrecked that car since then, just so you know.
Well, not my problem. I would do the approval of the transfer to the schools with $1 lease.
Okay. Motion's been made by Glenn to transfer the vehicle to the schools. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I abstain.
Okay. Dr. King abstains. Anything else?
So that is it.
So that is your last official update to the Board of Works.
Yes.
Congratulations. Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate all the years of service.
All right, appreciate it, thank you.
Up next, Fire Chief Nathan Stoermer. First thing on the agenda, Honda administration pay.
Good evening. I come to you before tonight to request that Honda administration pay is something that is done to the Honda administrator. Our previous Honda administrator had retired, and that funding had actually just stopped at that point. I've now since put Captain Curtis Lewis and Assistant Chief Brian Winning in charge of our Honda operations, so I come before you tonight to resume that pay and ask it to be split, divided by 2 for those 2 individuals to now receive that pay. In your packet is is a memo of kind of some of their outlining of their duties and what they do as to why the additional pay is necessary.
Okay. And this was already given to you one individual before, so.
Correct. This is nothing new. This is actually, money that had stopped spending it last year. Just now that we've got things settled down, allow some things to settle a little bit and getting into a new groove, time to redo this again.
Any questions for the chief on that? If not, we'll take a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Dee. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, up next, purchase of forcible entry door prop.
I come before you tonight to ask board's approval to purchase forcible entry prop for a little over $8,000. This prop is an investment in the firefighter skills. It allows us to utilize it for structured training, as in group training, as well as unstructured training, so those that wish just to hone their craft a little bit more can go out and use it at any time. Currently, the city does not have anything like this. The closest forcible entry door prop is at Lecher Fire Training Center, which again is a little bit not useful for us because we have to take a whole truck out of service to send people down there to do that, thus leaving Greensburg uncovered. So it's currently my policy that we try to keep all of our training in-house. We try to keep all of our companies here in the town, so we're not having a 15-minute or a delayed response time in that. With that, this door prop would be the start of that. It is mobile, it is on wheels. It can go to our station 2, it can go to our station 1, as well as it can be moved in our pickup. So we would like to go ahead and move forward with that. Funding will come out of our Leona Hahn donation fund. So the Leona Hahn donation fund every year provides emergency services organizations with money to use for tangible equipment that's not necessarily in the budget. So 50% of that funding, there is not enough funding in that account to cover for it all. But the majority of the funding would come out of the Leona Hahn fund, and then the rest of it would be taken out of our training budget that we currently have.
You currently have 3 quotes. Their prices are similar. Do you have a particular one that you're looking at?
The training committee that looked at these has suggested the PEB Enterprises door. It has the wheels already on it. They fold up out of the way, and then they just fold out to be utilized. They feel that door would be the most efficient door for us.
And that also happens to be the least expensive.
Correct.
Any other questions for the chief?
You have sufficient funds left in your training budget? to
Absolutely.
balance?
Anything else? If not, we take a motion to purchase as presented. Motion been made by Glenn, second by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, recognition ceremony invitation.
So I'd just like to invite all of you to attend here in this building, June 16th at 6 p.m., our recognition ceremony for our firefighters. Now that COVID is wrapping up and we can get back together, we're going to be celebrating the retirements of 5 firefighters, the promotion of firefighters that were promoted throughout last year, badge pinning for 3 firefighters who successfully completed their probation, and the welcoming of 3 firefighters who now just, or I'm sorry, yeah, 3 firefighters that we just welcomed on board, sorry. It's all running together after a while. There will be a cupcake and cookie reception afterwards. All the retirees of the fire department have been invited, all current members, as well as department chaplains. So we will do a ceremony of badge pinning, axe presentation ceremony, and it would be delighted if you guys could attend as well. It starts at 6 p.m. on June 16th, Wednesday, June 16th, right here in the EOC/City Hall chambers.
Okay. Perfect, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Up next, Street Commissioner Klosterkemper with approval of leave of absence without pay for employee number 172.
Good evening. In your packet, you should find quite a bit of information in regards to employee 172. He had a very severe medical issue that occurred back in February. He has been with the city of Greensburg for 30-plus years, dependable, excellent worker, never had an issue whatsoever. He has now exhausted all of his sick leave time and his vacation time, personal days, everything he had. At the same time we started the FMLA, which ran for 12 weeks, and that has since ran out as of May 12. There will be some documentation, I think, included in your packet from various medical personnel. They remain optimistic that he's going to make a full recovery. But for him to stay on, I'm asking for extended leave of absence. And I'd like it right now to go through July the 15th because he went to see his primary physician today. He sees a neurologist the 28th day of June, who will make a better determination, and that will be prior to the next board work. So I picked the 15th to get us past that next board work.
In the meantime as well, we have May 12th was his last day.
Yes, that's right. It needs to be retroactive,
Yeah,
back to
we
May
missed it.
12th through the July 15th date.
Well, with your recommendation that he has been a successful and loyal employee in what I've seen, application, I would concur. No reason to say no unless my colleagues have other thoughts. I would have moved to approve the extended leave of absence from May 12th through July